All right. Welcome back to Blue by the Numbers. I'm Tanner, joined by Brian. Brian, it is Tuesday, the 24th of September, and Michigan is 1-0 in the Big Ten, man. How was your weekend? How are you? How was the game? Like, how'd you enjoy it?
No, the game was so stressful, so fun. I mentioned to you earlier, I had a house full of college students at the crib and did a little watch party. And so it was, enjoying the game and the stress of the game and stressing about watching my tongue a little bit when that game got tight and ugly. But it was so fun. I mean, it was so nice to kind of get back on the winning track, beat a top 25 opponent, win a Big Ten game, beat a blue blood. There's so many great things about that game. There's some things that were very frustrating that kind of project the rest of the way that are concerning. But, that game was as fun as I've had watching a Michigan game since the Natty for sure.
Yeah, that was a really, hey, look, that's the first time Michigan's beaten a ranked team in 8 months.
Right.
It's a long time coming for us. Outside the game, I thought Stripe Out looked amazing.
It did.
I didn't think they'd pull it off. I was surprised, and it looked good. The sections in the stadium make it look a little bit weird because it's not just like they're just straight sections down to the field. But
right.
I thought it looked pretty awesome from the aerial shots.
A plus.
I had a lot of people that were at the game tell me that it was about as loud as they've ever heard it, which is awesome. We were at the Texas game and it was loud in the first couple series, but it was nice that, Michigan fans had a reason to get loud. And I think USC had 4 false starts. So shout out to the Michigan crowd. I love when they tell us how quiet we are.
Yeah.
It gets loud, man. Like, what are we talking about here? It's not Penn State, but it gets pretty loud.
Sherrod mentioned it. He's like, that's as electric as a crowd. He's like, keep that up,
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm gonna be going on this Saturday to the Minnesota game. So excited to get back in the big house and get after and try to do my part to disrupt the game for Minnesota.
Yeah. The nation loves the Blue Bloods. The Big Ten goes to CBS at 3:30, and the audience at CBS was the largest in 10 years for week 4 at the 3:30.
Just means more, Brian.
It just means more. So
I saw Scott Bell tweet that. I stole that from Scott, but that's a very
that's very good. Yeah.
Yes, very good comment from Scott as he always does. Yeah, I honestly though. I watched it at a wedding, so I didn't have sound basically the whole time. Shout out to YouTube TV. If this was 10 years ago, then what the hell do I do?
Oh, right.
Watch it on ESPN Gamecast. But it's ever since Nestler left ESPN to go to CBS. I don't know when that was, but Nestler I think is one of the best to do it. And so people have their thoughts on Gary Danielson. I think he's fine, but I just feel like Brad Nessler really brings that big game feel. So just, all the pageantry and everything I think is awesome. It's still a little weird hearing the CBS song. So used to that coming from Baton Rouge or Tuscaloosa or Gainesville or Athens. But, I think CBS does a really good job. So, I'm glad that the Big Ten has partnered with them and, we get the premier broadcast group on that 3:30 games. Because you remember 3:30 used to be the big kickoff.
Oh, yeah. Right.
At least for Michigan. That was the big game. We
get Gus and Joel. We get those guys. I mean, it's just now that Big Ten's everywhere. We get all the big crews. We get some ABC action, we get some CBS action. We get more diversity in our coverage, which is great.
Absolutely. So Michigan wins 27-24. Gritty game, gritty performance, gritty from both teams, man. I just want to say, because we're obviously going to talk about Michigan in this, but man, I have a lot of respect for Miller Moss. That kid was getting his ass kicked, and not through any fault of his own. I mean, that left tackle. Josiah Stewart, we'll get to Josiah. I mean, oh my gosh, just dominated him. I'd love to see the USC grades from PFF, but that kid stood in there and they played tough, man. I mean, I thought they were out of it and they made a run, but to Michigan's credit, they were able to kind of bow up when they needed to. They were down 3 and USC had the ball and they got a stop to get the ball back, which led to the eventual go-ahead touchdown, and then they get a stop on 4th down to end the game. So, well, I mean, this is everybody wants to know. I don't know if everybody wants to know from us, but this is what everyone wants to hear about. What did you think of the offense with Alex Orji as its starter?
I mean, it was what I thought. On the pod last week, I said Michigan will win 24-20, 23-20, which is a 3-point win. And I said we'd have to get comfortable with watching ugly and cheering for ugly. And that's what we got. We got kind of what I expected. It's maddening when that it's, when they stay on schedule, it's fine. When it gets like 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, you're like, what are we going to do? You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to, we got to hope that one of these backs breaks a tackle or, 3 thrilled with the outcome. It's fun winning bully ball. Like, I've been a Michigan fan long enough to appreciate, like, when we can just line up and tell you we're coming at you, shades that Penn State game last year. But I would like to see some more creativity. Like, as much criticism as you might want to have on, the wide receivers and the quarterback play, like, just some creativity to get some guys in space, more motion, more, across the middle. So Orgy doesn't have to throw it 30 yards, throw 10, 15 yards, but have a guy moving so he can, turn 8, 10 yards into more. I kind of thought the playbook lacked some creativity. Was it effective? Yes. And I think the more they commit to the run, the better the offensive lineman will get it gelling. And, we've seen improvement week over week over week, and there's still some serious issues there. But, I have questions how sustainable that'll be against Oregon, against Ohio State. But, for now, it was fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I agree that I'd like to see more creativity, but there were a couple moments that Michigan had something designed really nicely, and there was no execution. Right? I think about the play. I saw the clip from the end zone view where Orgy takes it, and if he gives it to Mullings might still be running at this point.
Right.
And that would have been a touchdown.
There were a few of those.
He had Samaj Morgan. I mean, and we'll talk about the receivers, but I think this route, and obviously it's got to be more consistent, and you've got to be able to get him the ball. But Samaj Morgan on the second to last drive, it was the third down where Michigan had to punt to USC before they got the ball back to go on that game-winning drive. Samaj Morgan completely just cooks his man and is wide open on a post. There's no deep safety because there's no threat of Michigan throwing the ball, but like I could make that throw. Right. You could make that throw. And so it's just for Alex, it's just, seeing those opportunities downfield and taking advantage of them when they are there. And then, it with Samaj as well on that screen I think it was in the fourth quarter. It's a 3rd and 8. It's a tunnel screen. He tries to bounce outside. If he cuts inside, he's gone. I don't know if you've seen that still.
I did. Yeah.
Because he's got a lineman coming to block. I can't remember if it was Bredesen or a lineman, but he's got somebody coming to block.
He's got
there's
both.
Nobody deep. Yeah, there's nobody deep. He's gone.
Right. He's gone.
It's just, same thing with the defense. It's execution. And look, it's college football, and you don't get a preseason, and you're in game 4, and you're just trying to win and make plays. And so those are things that you would think would get ironed out. But I agree with you. I'd like to see a little bit more creativity with Orgy. I just don't know if they've got enough time now. Right.
Well, think about this with Orgy. He played about 400%, 500% more snaps on Saturday than he's played in his career. And so that growth curve should be pretty steep when he goes back and be able to watch actual film of game action.
Yes.
Just kind of see where he missed. Hopefully, sounds like he's a really smart kid that's going to put in the work. So you have to think that there's going to be some significant growth. It's just, does he have it in him to make some of those plays? And if he doesn't, then it's up to the staff to be creative in ways to utilize what he can do.
Yeah, and at some point, I don't know if it's this week, next week, they know they go to the bye, but you'd think Michigan would be able to win these next 2 games without him. But if Colson Loveland comes back, that's kind of a built-in safety blanket, right? Of like, hey, I can just fire this over to 18 and he'll make a play 90% of the time. So having Colson back, but at the same time, I thought Marlon Klein, had a relatively solid game. I think that was probably good for his growth and might be beneficial to Michigan's goals for the rest of the season with him getting some run. And what Colson Loveland is, he's a first round kind of guy. So with Orgy, I thought it was very interesting, but to your point, winning bully ball is a lot of fun. And a lot of that was the running backs. And I know, we want to see more Kalel, but I want to give Donovan Edwards his flowers. I know he had the fumble. The DB just punches it out, makes it just a fantastic play. I thought both guys were really good. Obviously, Mullings was the star of the show, but Donovan had a really nice touchdown run. So was really encouraged by the running backs and their ability to pick up yardage, and especially Kalel. I mean, he has the big one to start it off, and then he's got the touchdown to end it. And in between, I mean, he only had 17 carries. I would love to know the number of carries he had going into that last drive, because he might have carried it 8 or 9 times on the final touchdown drive.
I think the staff knows how explosive Edwards is, and they fall in love with the potential of the big play. And he's shown time and time again in so many big games that when he gets that hole, he's housing the thing, right? But in an offense where we just cannot afford to get behind schedule, you know what I mean? Mullings is more of that traditional successful Michigan back, whether it was, from Mike Hart all the way to Blake Corum, where if there's 2 yards in front of you, he's going to find a way to get 2.5, 3. We can't afford for that patient kind of style that puts us in 2nd and 9. Like, we need that running back that's going to get us positive yards on just about every carry. We can't afford to, fall behind. And so that's where, because of that, I think it just has to be Mullings as RB1. And, Sharon kind of alluded to that. I think anyone that watched, can recognize that he's the guy, man. It's amazing. It's amazing how a guy like him and Hassan Haskins, a guy that comes in, with 3 or 4 guys much more highly rated in terms of recruiting rankings with higher expectations, they both linebackers, how just because they come in as one thing and we have a perception of them as one thing doesn't mean that they're not something entirely different,
Right.
just different. I mean, you put high 4-star recruit on him and take away the linebacker label, and he just looks like a great Big Ten, running back. And that's what he is. He's awesome.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. No surprise, highest graded guy according to PFF with a 78 rating on Saturday. Probably could have gone higher. Probably. I think breaking that tackle to get down close to the red zone with 2 minutes left might be worth about 10 points. I don't know.
The only thing that stopped his grade from being in the mid 80s was he had a horrible pass blocking grade. So I didn't notice anything that was glaring, but he has about.
I mean, it's tough as a back to pass block when you got 3 guys.
On you. Right.
So
right.
I wonder what that grading does. Receivers, I mean, not super involved. I liked Freddie more on his end arounds. Samaj again, he had a couple nice plays. I thought we don't talk special teams really, but I know he had kind of, I don't know if you want to call him muff. I'm okay with that when there's enough space where if it bounces. I mean, we've seen Jabril Peppers do that. You see that in the NFL. He makes a play. I thought Samaj was solid, and especially in the return game, man, I feel really comfortable with him back there. I feel like he's improved a lot since last season. So even if it's not offensively, he's impacting the game in positive ways, because Michigan was winning the field position battle early on, and it was a little bit of a back and forth that ended up leading to Mullings' 53-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. So
speaking of Samaj had the highest run blocking grade on the team. So,
tiny. You got to get in the ball.
Yeah.
Get in the ball.
Get in the ball.
He was wide open on that post route, man. I mean, just wide open. So, would love to be able to try to connect on a deep shot to Samaj. I think he's more than just a gadget guy. I think he needs to be given real opportunities to play receiver and run routes, and get him something, easy for both him and Orji, right? Just get him on a drag route, get him on an out, make both those guys have an easier time connecting. Was there anybody that stood out aside from Samaj for you on Saturday when it comes to the receivers? Very limited. I would have maybe in pass or in run blocking or.
No. I mean, they're kind of
It's tough to grade them, right?
It's tough. It's like an incomplete, right? It's like they weren't impactful enough in the game plan. You got to be tough play. Coming into a school like Michigan and thinking, going from JJ watching. Cornelius and Roman have their kind of success behind JJ and think, okay, now it's my turn, and then to resort to the scheme plan that we have. That's got to be tough. And so, respect to those kids for finding a way to be team guys and do what's best for the team. And we'll see how it plays out the rest of the way. But kind of incomplete on the wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about the consequences of that, right? Like, you want to win, but it's also like, well, now we've got to tell recruits, like, hey, we are going to look like a functional offense at some point. We just need to figure it out.
I'm not as concerned about that as many others, for the sole reason of you had JJ light it up. They have Jaden Davis, 5-star freshman, incoming freshman Carter Smith, one of the top rated quarterbacks in the country, and then right by him, Brady Hart, one of the best high school prospects that'll come to Michigan in a long, long time. Every bit as highly rated as JJ, and so you just point to recruits in that fashion. So like, listen, we kind of got in a pickle between JJ and Jaden Davis, and we have this situation going on. But by the time you get here, we're going to be humming with quarterbacks for the next 7-8 years. So I'm not as concerned about that. Like, I'm sure our rival, coaches will be pointing that out, that, our wide receivers aren't doing anything, but a decent recruiter can kind of point to it. What lies ahead.
No, absolutely. Tight end. So I mentioned it earlier. No Colson Loveland.
So
Marlon Klein is your starting tight end. He did have a catch, try to hurdle 3 guys right before Mullings' long run in the fourth quarter. But I thought, he had some good moments in the run game blocking. Max Bredesen, I think, criminally underrated in his grading. I thought he was Max Bredesen, right? Like that guy did his thing. I was impressed with Zach Marshall. He was in there on the last offensive play for Michigan that was the touchdown to take the lead. I've never seen a fan base complain about a guy holding when he has a full club wrap on his hand.
An enormous club.
Not sure if anyone's ever tried to play football with that, but you can't grab anything.
Right.
But I thought, he was a guy that, redshirt freshman, he's going to take some time to bake, but he's a guy I thought impressed from what I was able to see from him.
Yeah, it shows you that you can't, he played kind of a wide open offense out west and was kind of an undersized guy for a Michigan tight end coming in and was the lower rated, we had Deacon Tonelli coming in with him and just a lot of highly rated tight ends coming around. As a guy that, you got to give respect to the staff for seeing what they saw on him and seeing his work ethic and talent to put on the weight and kind of contribute because, he's there when other people, higher rated on the team are not. So, a big fan of that guy. And seems like a really likable guy. Like if you're watching the Michigan football socials and his own social, he's like he's a fun-loving guy, and it seems like he's great for the team. So yeah, he looks great. Limited action, 13 snaps, but looks really good.
Yeah, and then Hogan Hansen gets some run, and Jalen Hoffman got a couple snaps. Who they kind of look at him as the next H-back. Although I hope Max is a friend of the program. And Max, if you ever listen to us, which I don't recommend because you've got more important things to worry about, come back next year. Come back for a 5th year. We'd appreciate it. But yeah, I thought the tight ends, again, similar to the receivers, but in the run game, I thought they were exceptional, and a lot of that's because of Max Bredesen. And again, I thought Marlon Klein was very solid,
very solid,
as the inline tight end. So, and I think you bring Colson back, dude. If Zach Marshall continues to develop, you feel good about that. I think you maybe just have Marlon Klein most of the time be your inline tight end and then just play Colson Loveland out in the slot or outside and just move him around the formation and the offense to get him the ball in different ways and let him, maybe manipulate the defense in different ways. That may be something that they can look at when Colson is healthy.
So I think they're going to have to. Plus, he gives you, would you rather have him or CJ Charleston blocking a line?
Right.
You know what I mean? When you do run. So I think they're going to have to look at that. And I'm sure
instead of motioning Brady out, let's just motion Colson out wide, right? Like that's where I'm at with this. So we talked about this pre-show. Offensive line. Pass pro, not great, but interesting to see some of the grades considering Michigan did run for 290 yards against a mostly stacked box. I mean, typically you had 9 or 10 guys within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I thought they handled that very well in the run game. And even the run game grading from PFF was not overly complimentary of the Michigan offensive line. Miles Hinton had the highest run grade for Michigan. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought Preeb was really good. I thought Evan Link in the run game was a lot better. The pass pro issues are still there. Was there anybody that stood out to you? And again, I want to mention this. Jadise and Crippen, not 50-50, but they do split a lot of snaps in this game. Crippen does grade out about 17 points higher than Jadise. I would be curious what Michigan's internal grading looks like when those staffers are reviewing the film on Saturday night into Sunday morning. But would love to know what your thoughts were on the O-line. I thought run game, pretty damn good. Yeah. Pass pro, maybe not so much.
I feel like, as much – think of how fast that game's going, particularly when you pass for Orji, right? Like, just doesn't have that many opportunities. So, they always talk about the game slowing down for guys. That game had to be going 100 miles an hour for him. And when the pass pro's been as weak as it's been, it's going even faster. Like, I can't remember really any time where he got to set his feet and make a decision where he throw it. He was on the run all the time. So, they got to clean that up to, help the game slow down for Orji. I thought the line at times looked really good. There were times where, you'd watch the replay and it was just weird turnstile, and the plays were there. It had just one guy made a block. And, again, I mentioned earlier, we got to stay on schedule. And so when a guy totally misses a block and we get tackled for a 2-yard loss, that's brutal. So they just got to clean it up. I mean, I think, whether it's getting Crippen in there, I can't believe Evan Link's our best option. Like, I know that, they'll get better and they're getting good coaching, but gosh, all the great talent we've been to have a tackle starting at Michigan and playing this many snaps, struggling as much as he does is definitely frustrating. There's just no way. There's no way to hide it. Like, I like to be the positive guy as much as possible, but like that's a glaring issue that, I wish we didn't have.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen guys make big leaps in season before. You think about John Runyon Jr. Against
Great
Notre
example.
Dame was basically Evan Lake right now. Now it's gone on a little longer than it went on for Runyon, and Runyon is still in the NFL. I believe he's a starting guard for the New York Giants at this point. Very funny that he's playing for the Giants. Dad's an Eagle. But you'd like to start to see some progress. You'd like to start to see some light bulb clicking for Lake in pass pro. Because again, I thought in the run game, I thought he had some moments. I was like, okay, I kind of see what they're talking about. I kind of see what they see out of him. I got to see it in the pass pro too. Got to see it in the passing game because Michigan's not going to throw for 200 yards, 103, but I need to see like 125,
right,
100, triple digits, and part of that's going to be for Orgy's sake a clean pocket, right? Because we know he's athletic, but not everybody can make throws on the run in the way that J.J. McCarthy did last season for Michigan. That's a very developed skill. So, and I don't know if Alex Orgy's got that in his repertoire. So, but hey, you grind out 27 points.
27 points.
A little help from the defense though. But you score 3 rushing touchdowns, and when you had to have it, you got it.
Right.
And that's been Michigan's MO the last 4 seasons. When you need it in the run game, you're able to get it, and they continue that on Saturday. So I'll get the offense a B+, man. Honestly,
that's fair, Greg.
Pass game, whatever. It's 1947. Who cares, man? Yeah. Let's talk about something more fun. Let's talk about the defense.
Oh, let's go.
Mason Graham, as best game of the year, dominant against his home state, USC Trojans. Just all over the place. Kenneth, Grant, let's not try to stiff arm. Let's corral the ball. Let's get an arm around it, 2 arms around it. Maybe try to truck the guy instead of stiff arming him. But hell of a play to pick it up. Just go down with the ball. But he was dominant. Yeah. Brayshawn Benny had a really strong game. That drop off is not that steep. I don't think he's just not as big as those guys, but he's a ball player, man, and I think he's been coming on every year. He's gotten better at Michigan. So, and then Ike, I don't remember seeing. I remember seeing him, but I don't remember too much of an impact. But he's a warm body. Get those guys some rest.
The fact that you didn't see an impact means that you didn't see the drop off, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't remember a play that he made either, but I also don't remember a play that I thought like, oh, I wish
right.
G or Graham were in there. So I think that says a lot about him. As it comes to the Grant fumble, I don't blame him. If you watch that replay, if somehow he holds in that ball, that guy falls down, there's nobody else there. I mean,
I was like, he's going to house this thing, man. So, we all wanted it.
So, I mean, big man touchdowns are fantastic. And so I'm not going to, he's not used to carrying the ball. I don't think they're doing the rip drill with the defensive tackles much in practice. So, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, awareness, go down. But, like, he's a big guy. He knows he has speed. Like, that's his chance. And, do I love the outcome? No, but I'm not going to hate on him. Yeah, I thought him and Graham, we've talked a bunch the last few weeks of those guys really haven't had that performance that we expected on a week on basis this year. Excuse me. They were awesome. They were dominant. They were everything they were billed to be. They were just a force. And, they welcomed the Big Ten USC because those two and Mr. Stewart were just menaces.
Well, before we get to the defensive ends, I just want to ask if you noticed on the last play of the game when Miller Moss throws it and it's short of the sticks, who's celebrating more than anybody on the field? Big number 78. And I think that's probably because now we can laugh at it.
Yeah,
I didn't toss it,
right?
That would have, because that was a moment where I was like, oh no, this is a typical back to pre-2021 Michigan where Michigan loses a game that they were in full control of. That's how I felt. Sure, a lot of us felt that way. But they get the job done, thanks in part to Josiah Stewart, who had, 4 tackles, 3 for loss, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, like 5 quarterback hurries, a couple quarterback hits. 0 was, let me just say this too. I don't think, look, you could put 0 on Will Johnson, you put 0 on 55, but I think, very well deserved for the new number 0 with the Josiah Stewart. I mean, he's just made such a leap from last year where he was really good. But I tweeted this. He's playing like a first rounder. and he may not have the measurables. They may say he's too short. They may say his arms aren't long enough. I've heard that about guys before. But this guy, was a wrecking crew on Saturday. Super impressive.
Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week, Chuck Bednarik Award winner for the week. Like, right, it wasn't just Michigan fans that noticed. The Big Ten media, the Bednarik Award, folks, they noticed. He was, as it stands right now, Josiah Stewart is the highest graded PFF player in the country. So as far as PFF is concerned, Josiah Stewart has played the best football of anyone in the nation.
And wasn't he the highest graded player his freshman year at Coastal Carolina too?
He might have.
Well, he had
crazy grades for sure.
Yeah, he had like 15 plus sacks.
Yeah,
as a freshman. Then he fell off a little bit.
Right.
Comes to Michigan last year, and now, I mean, just all over the field. I mean, the Fresno State game, I thought he was all over the place. The Texas game, I know Michigan gets blown out, but I thought he was maybe their best player on defense during that game. And yeah, just a stud. Just so excited. That's why I love college football, because it's like these guys aren't finished products, right? Like, so you see them grow and develop and mature, and I think you're starting to see him come into his own. And maybe I'm being a little bullish with the first round pick tweets, but definitely day 2 pick, right?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, if he's there in the second round, you take a shot, you take a chance with him. Derek Moore was very highly graded as well.
He was great.
I don't remember any necessarily standout moments, but I know he got some pressures. I thought he was very, very sound.
He had a couple one-arm tackles like in space where if he had make it, the guy's going 7-8 more yards. I mean, one thing about that game is I've watched it, I think, like 3 times now in pieces, not that big of a degenerate where I should watch the game 3 times, but just in different, segments. And it's amazing in that game on the defensive side of the ball how many times we were so close to wreaking havoc for 7-8 yard passes. And as you mentioned, Miller Moss was great. His receivers were studs. I mean, how many times he was about to get crushed? He throws a ball and the receiver, either throws a great pass or his receiver makes a great play. But, we were so close to that game being a really bad blowout. But, shout out to them. Them being USC, making some really stellar plays. And Miller Moss, stud, warrior. I tons of respect for him.
I said that in the beginning, man. Yep. That kid's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Linebackers.
Yeah.
I mean, some missed tackles here and there. But I feel like Houseman had a solid game. His grade is only a 63. But I thought, he's better. And I
thought Houseman played great. I thought he might have played his best game as a Wolverine. I thought he was really solid all around.
Yeah, I remember hearing his name a lot.
He gets dinged because I don't think, like in the full toolkit of what a linebacker does, he's not really a pass rush guy. And when you look at the PFF grades on a week-on-weekend basis, I can't say that today.
Week by week?
Week by week. Thank you. Gosh, English is a tough language.
It is.
He always gets dinged in the pass rush. Like, it's just not something he's done, but he's tackling grade great. His run defense great. He just, he gets dinged there. And I don't think the scheme really calls for him to be effective in the pass rush per se. So I thought he had his best game as a pro. I thought he was, right there in a lot of those cases, some of those instances where, we were super close with him. I do feel like in this scheme, he does get put in some tough spots. Like, he's out in coverage on some skilled players and you're thinking, why is he the closest defender to number 8? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on right now? But I thought he played his best game as a Wolverine.
No, absolutely. Well, let's just talk about the another fun group here. I mentioned before, just a little bit ago, that typically guys are not at their potential or not the finished product. I think Will Johnson might be as close to a finished product as you're going to get.
So good.
In the college game, I mean, he's quick, he's athletic, he's smart, he's rangy, he's long. The kid is just, I mean, he's got the lineage. I mean, he comes up in the run support. But that pick six, I mean, you saw, like, when I was at the wedding watching it, the best man at my wedding was also at the wedding, my best friend, and he's like, hey, have they started at Will Johnson lately? And I was like, I don't think so. And the next play, kid you not, he baits him, and it was just like the Minnesota game last year that everyone cried about signs, and it was not the same route, but it was a cover 2 look, and the moment Will saw him wind up, he just steps right in front of it, takes it for 6, and that was massive because you could feel the momentum slipping away from Michigan,
100%.
And it really, USC does end up taking the lead, but it delayed that for a little while and allowed Michigan to regroup and get some momentum and get the crowd back into it. It was such an important moment in this game that you're just very, very happy, very glad, very lucky that you have Will Johnson on your team because that was an NFL play.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he's him. You know what I mean? CB1. He. It's great when you have players too that come in with a lot of hype. You know, Donovan Edwards gets the cover of the video game and hasn't really lived up to that. You know, you hate to see that happen, but it's nice to see a guy. You know, Will Johnson, I think, is the highest rated guy in that game in terms of the player grades, and he's looked the part the whole season. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 pick most likely. I'm assuming he'll test like crazy, and as long as that guy stays healthy, he's fun to watch. We're lucky to have him.
Yeah, I think he's going to be an all-pro in the NFL. I think his immediate impact, they're not the same player, but I think his immediate impact is going to be like another Detroit guy, Sauce Gardner, right? Where he steps in day one, he's one of the best corners in the NFL. I mean, that's the type of guy that he is. It also should shut down any conversation about who the best quarterback in the country is. And then here's the thing too, Will Johnson, you'll notice he tries to bait plays, right? Like if he wanted to just lock up, man up, and just not allow any pass completions, he could probably do that. He maybe give up one here or there, but no, he's trying to make big plays. And I take the risk taking from Will Johnson and getting 7 points, and it's a 14-point swing potentially versus just locking a guy up, right? Like, yeah, you may give up some plays, but you're trying to bait the quarterback and get the ball back for your team. I take that all day long. So, yeah, that should shut down any conversation about who the best corner in the country is, because I've heard some people talk about Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter's a phenomenal athlete, great football player, not even close when it comes to quarterback. I'm sorry. Yeah. He's a great receiver. You should focus on receivers. You should play receiver in the NFL. Not even close, because Will Johnson, there's nobody close to him in the country, in my opinion.
Morrison at Notre Dame's pretty solid, but I think
I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but I want to emphasize my point. Will Johnson is
I'm on Team Will for sure. I'm with you.
Michigan CB2, Jair Hill flashed. Right, there were some moments where like, Jair, what are we doing? But there were some moments where like, no, I see why he locked this job down pretty early. And he made some big time plays, not just some pass breakups. He came down on that tight end and was able to get a nice tackle. Hope that tight end's okay. Unfortunately, as somebody who's like 6'2", 180, like Jair Hill is, you kind of got to go low and make that tackle. But man, he was all over the field. He had multiple pass breakups. The last touchdown, and we'll talk about the other guy involved in this play. I think both were a little bit at fault. I thought Jair maybe should have got a little bit more deep on that. I saw Brian from MGO Blog talk about it, where Amir Hull's on the other side of the field getting very deep with that receiver, 3rd and 16. So, and then Makari doesn't come over. It looks like he could either picked it off or whipped the receiver up to break it up. But other than that, I thought Jair Hill grew up, and you see why he was rated so highly as a recruit. You see why he won the job so early. You see why the coaches are so excited about him.
You talked earlier about like you're hoping to see that light go on. I said about Ernest Hausman, Hill had his best game by far. He's the highest graded defensive back in the Big Ten this week. But you saw the traits, right, on that long run late in the game. He's the guy that ran him down. Quentin Johnson misses the tackle. Amir Hull can't catch the guy. And Hill comes from the other side of the field and runs that down. It shows there's a lot of guys that you want to ascend to the top of the depth chart because you can't replace physical traits, right? Speed, size, strength. And you see why it's good for us long term, even though we've had some kind of bumpy spots along the way. He's fast. He's strong. Like he hits guys. He's fast. And so when you see the skill and athletic traits come together with kind of the game slowing down for him, I'm pretty excited about him. Like, and I think our whole fan base has been pretty down on him early. But you see why this is where you trust the coaching staff at times over, or all the time over the guy on the couch with a clicker, right? Like, they saw something, they saw the traits and knew like, hey, there's going to be some bumps along the way, but this is a guy, if it all goes right, can turn into a star. And that's happening. And so let's hope that the ascension continues, because I'm excited there.
Yeah, I agree. Now for some not so positive. I thought Makari Page was maybe one of his worst games as a Michigan player, unfortunately. Love Makari. He's a captain, and he's made a lot of big plays for Michigan over the years, but just not his best game. And maybe that's a product of playing a team with such good receivers. But hey, newsflash, there's some teams in this conference that have really good receivers that Michigan's going to need Makari Page to play a lot better.
Yeah, I think he had the way he graded out, the eye test, he definitely has, and I'm a big Makari fan.
Yeah, I love Makari.
he did not have a good game. I mean, there's no way the other way around it. He was out of place. He missed tackles. He just just did not have a great game. And luckily, they won the game and he moves past it. So if you're him and you look in the mirror and you watch the tape, you say, I didn't have my best game, but it didn't cost the team a win. So just clean things up, get better. Keep your chin up, chest out, and let's go on to next week and be the leader that he is. So, I'll chalk it up as he had a bad game. I think, I think Quentin Johnson had a pretty solid game. I think Zeke Berry has his moments. I mean, I think he's still, it's funny. Zeke Berry started off ahead of Jair Hill early in the season. He looked more ready game one, but that seems to have switched. Like this game seems to be slowing down at a quicker rate for Jair Hill than it is for Zeke Berry. I'm excited about those two. Both tons of what's exciting about that group is they're so athletic and so fast, as athletic and fast as any combo of guys we've had in a while. So if that all comes together at the right time, the Oregon game, the Ohio State game, that could be a pretty potent group back there.
No, absolutely. I thought Brandon Hillman played well. Also, I liked what I saw from number 6. Yeah, another second year guy like Hill. Barry's in his third year, but a young group. And you lose Mike Saverstil. Saw Mikey make some plays last night. They tried to run a screen against him. I mean, he blew it up. Also he got toasted by Jamar Chase. What are we doing? Washington. He's not an outside corner. Put him on slot guy. Don't let him get beat deep like that. But I digress. I thought one thing I want to point out I thought was interesting. They bring in Wesley Walker from Tennessee, who's played a lot of football, right? And he's a guy that's got a lot of experience. And so you're like, all right, this guy's probably going to play a lot. And this is not necessarily, this isn't a shot or anything, but I think it's a good sign that a lot of these younger guys are getting. He only had 8 snaps. I think it's a really good sign that a lot of these younger guys are playing. I think, they probably went in the portal, break in case of emergency. And when Rod went out, it's like, all right, well, we got to go find some guys. I think it's a good sign that a lot of these younger guys are playing and are flashing potential. I like Brandon Hillman's always around the ball. He's always hitting. He almost had an interception on Saturday. I like these young guys getting some reps, man, because Michigan's going to need them at some point later on down the road. This season, next season, whatever it is. So for them to get reps in meaningful big games right now, that's huge. And for them to, hold up, that's a really good sign. So I'm really excited about the future of this defense, starting to see some of these guys, get us excited again, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
rough couple weeks there. We were kind of down, and it's nice to be excited. And maybe it's misguided. I don't know, but I just felt like, it was ugly. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Yeah, there were some coverage busts. Zeke blitzing on the zero blitz, and there's nobody there. I don't know what happened there, but it was just, it was nice to see. It felt like they were just flying to the ball. They had their swagger back. They were excited. There was energy that I haven't seen all season.
Yeah, and one thing that, as you know, I'm a big Sharon Moore fan. The Dennis Dodd National Coach of the Week this week. Shout out, Coach. We don't know, what type of legacy he's going to leave and what he's going to do, what his imprint on this team long term is going to be, but he's pretty stoic there. You watch a lot of first-year coaches and kind of losing their cool and losing, their kind of composure. He kind of seemed locked in the whole time, And again, that's not me saying I think he's the, Newt Rockne or anything like that yet, but he does seem to kind of control himself and seems to be kind of locked in in a good way the entire time. And so I think that's positive in terms of keeping a team together that's kind of really struggling to find an identity, and I think we're seeing that identity kind of reveal itself. And, so if we can clean up that offensive line and clean up some of those defensive back stuff, I mean, we have a lot of makings for a powerful team. Whether it's good enough against well-rounded, really talented teams down the road, we'll see.
No, absolutely, man. I mean, hey, look, we're through the first third of the season. We're almost through September. Shout out to the Detroit Tigers. Their magic number is 5 after today. Shout out to Tarek Skubal. 8-2 in the last 10. Tied for the best record over the last 10. Just want to give a shout out to the Tigers, man, because we haven't had a chance to really root for the Tigers like that in a long time and have meaningful baseball games in September, leading in October. And that's when football gets really fun too, right? So this next stretch, this next month is my favorite time of year for sports. It's unbelievable. So excited to see Michigan against Minnesota. The last of 5 straight home games to start the year. Always interesting.
Yeah.
And then they go on the road to Washington, and we'll talk about the Minnesota game next week. But
Tanner, can we just do one shout out?
Yeah, let's do it.
One guy that we've both been like scratch our heads on the first few weeks.
I know who you're gonna say.
Yeah, he
was phenomenal.
Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week, Tommy Doman. He dropped some bombs.
It was money.
He was so good. I mean, again, when you have guys, when you have the quarterback situation, you need other guys to step up and make plays. And a guy that's kind of been disappointing even the back part of last year and the first few games this year has kind of been like, where's his leg been? He was it. I mean, he was the Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week for how well he played. So shout out Tommy, because when we needed you most, you came through. Thank you.
Absolutely. The field position was huge. That Michigan won the field position game for sure. Yeah. And that was a big reason was the defense and was Tommy Doman. So you can win a lot of football games doing that. You can lose a lot of football games if you don't have that.
Yeah.
So, hey, want to know the Big Ten? 3-1, have a chance to go to 4-1 on Saturday. Big noon kickoff. You got to think the slate's pretty stale. Michigan, Minnesota is the big noon kickoff. No offense to Minnesota, but they just got beat by 17 by Iowa. So, hey, it's nice to get a win. Nice to get a win in a big game. It's been a while for us. Like I said, Brian, it's been about 8 months.
Right.
So I was fiending a little bit for ranked win. Finally got one. But we appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter at BlueBy90. Check out our podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Go to the website, blueby90.com. We certainly appreciate you, and go Blue.
Yep, bring on the jug, baby.